And now, ladies and gentlemen, the So Bros Network proudly brings to you some in-depth movie discussion with our resident film critic, Brandon Vick.
Happy evening, everyone. The Vick's Flicks podcast is here.
Welcome back for another episode of the Vick's Flicks podcast right here on Nashville Movie Dispatch. I'll be your host for the show, the EIC at So Bros Network, Big Natural Stoney Keeley. You can follow me on Twitter at Stoney Keeley, collectively at So Bros Network, and check out all of our work at NashvilleMovieDispatch.substack.com. Joined as usual by the star of the show himself, the man whose namesake it bears. He is a board member on the Music City Film Critics Association. He is a member of the Southeastern Film Critics Association. He's our resident film critic here at Nashville Movie Dispatch, Mr. Big Shot himself, Brandon Vick. Brandon, how you doing today, my man?
Not too bad. Thought I was going to be late for the show. My vacation Bible school got out late.
Oh, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know the angle you're trying to go with that, because sometimes we try to predict news in the future.
I mean,
Yeah.
were there activities or something that ran long?
All we do is reenact Lord of the Ring movies.
Okay.
That's all we do.
Yeah.
At Vacation Bible School?
And then we do a prayer at the end. And the person who's
Okay.
over it, I'm not going to name names, but the person over it does the prayer like Gollum.
Oh, that's good.
So
What does that mean? Like physical mannerisms, or like the voice, or everything?
oh no, it's everything.
In a loincloth too?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you can see why people want to stick around to the end, even if it runs late.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I was willing to cancel this whole damn thing if he wanted to continue.
That's
But
good.
He finally said amen in Gollum's voice, and
Oh, that's
I had to get on out to my Camry so I could get out here.
well, I'm happy you made it, because
Thanks.
we've got
Me too.
a big show.
Well, this was my
today.
idea. I feel like
Yeah.
this was a real task, but I will say I'm glad. Hopefully, everyone agrees. I'm glad we did it with the eighth and final Tom Cruise movie of Mission Impossible coming
out this week. Yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't miss it for the world. You know what? I probably would have left early.
Well, it's too late now.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I can't wait for tomorrow, though. I'm psyched.
What's tomorrow?
2 Towers.
Ah, okay.
2 Towers.
Is that Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Is it Lord of the Rings?
I didn't know which
That's right.
2 towers you were.
Oh, you thought we were doing like something about 9/11?
I didn't know.
No. This is still. It's all Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
All Lord of the Rings.
Gotcha.
But a couple days ago, we were doing. It takes like 3 weeks to get through one movie. Obviously.
Long, yeah.
Very long. But I like on the maybe the 6th day, I straight up told Chris, I said, "Hey, I don't worship nobody but Gandalf." So
Is that what the church is based around?
you know
That is a good question.
That's a great question. That is a great question.
I feel like we've done more to raise more questions.
It's out.
about
It's out in my
this.
cousin Eddie's garage. I just figured it probably was.
Yeah.
Yeah, out in Lebanon.
Tax exemption for that?
Oh, definitely,
Okay.
definitely.
All right. Well, thank you, Brandon.
Yeah.
That other voice
Y'all have a
you
good
hear-
night.
That other voice you hear is our buddy Brett. Brett's back with us. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm good. I'm excited to be here, too. I did have to use the rest of my PTO for the year to watch all the movies, and I haven't seen my family in a couple weeks, but...
Worth it.
So you've got 2 Towers tomorrow. I've got family reunion, as in getting to see my
As
family.
in getting to see
again.
your kids and
yeah,
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Well, I think we know who's going to have more fun.
Maybe.
Brett, were you on top of this franchise? Had you seen all of the films before we did this podcast, or were you behind? Because full disclosure, I did not see any of these. I had not seen a single second of a Mission Impossible movie until Brandon
That blows.
had this
I'm
idea,
sorry.
and then I've caught up in the last couple of weeks.
That
but-
blows my mind.
Yeah, I had seen them all. Big fan. I'm glad you asked this question. One movie stands out to me for a reason that wouldn't stand out to others. JC and I, my wife, went to see Mission Impossible 3 with my parents, and it was the first time she met my parents.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
wow.
And this is the really fun and kind of just cute story. After the movie, she told me she wasn't ready to be my girlfriend.
Ooh.
I showed her, right?
That's right. You got her.
Oh, man.
Said, "Oh yeah."
Busted.
That is a cute story. That is a cute story.
Was that before or after she ate like all your popcorn and stuff?
That was after.
Did you feel used?
I think we were about to go in IHOP. Now, to her credit, I think she told me before I paid for her IHOP. But still, I got her in the end. We saw who won that.
Well, I'm glad she stayed with you because my first impression seemed like she's a gold digger.
The night at Regal Cinemas and IHOP.
And IHOP, hell yeah.
That's right.
Hell yeah.
So, I don't have any notes for this.
Well,
So-
first, let's say that this is called Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. That's what's coming out. That's what's led to this. It is the 8th Mission Impossible movie. Tom Cruise and Ving Rhames are the only two that have been in all of them.
Good for Ving Rhames,
Yeah, because
too,
Ving
by the
Rhames shows
way.
up at the end on one of those with Renner in them. You don't see him the whole movie. So anyway, but yeah, and the word on the street is this is it. This is it for as far as Ethan Hunt and his team. I've heard, and when I say heard, I mean Tom told me that he's thinking about that there's going to be kind of a reboot one day, and Glenn Powell is taking over because they're buddies.
I was about to say this kind of like it feels like the end of an era. I mean, the first film was released in 1996.
Yeah,
and it kind of feels like a celebration of the franchise. Obviously, like we're talking about a series of films that is really genre-defining action espionage thrillers.
Yes.
I mean, the really good stuff that we'll get into.
I think this and John Wick, they changed the game.
Yes,
as far as what, not just action, but stunts and the way you tell a story that is just like, it's breathtaking on how they do it. And Tom Cruise, I mean, obviously he's basically known now that he has defied death and loves to do his own stunts. They just released something a week ago on one of the things where he's jumping out of a plane and he's filming it.
It's
and
crazy.
It is. Like I
I
watch
just,
that stuff and piss my pants. I can't imagine actually having to do it.
I think this is such a quality franchise, and there's a part of me that's like, man, this is really going to be something. How do they tie this up nice and neat with a bow on it?
Yeah.
And then there's that voice in the back of my head that just says, in a few years' time, they're just going to reboot this with someone new.
And that's the one thing is that I kind of hope they don't
and
let's let this settle in. Let's let it have its victory lap, and I don't mean like in 2 years. And listen, this could all change. It may not even be Glenn Powell. It could be, Steve Buscemi. I mean, we don't know. We don't know what kind of Mission Impossible it could.
Touche.
I feel like you should leave it alone for a long time because this is just, it's really set the bar. And after watching them again, like it really, like it went up. It didn't go up just one level. It went up like a few.
I mean,
there's a clear difference on when this became the action spectacle extravaganza and Tom Cruise was balls to the wall.
Balls to the wall is a great way to
big
put
old Scientology balls to the wall.
But I feel like there's a debt of gratitude owed to Tom Cruise because of the very clear dedication to the to the craft here. This feels like a special kind of role, and to say that about Tom Cruise, who is one of the bona fide movie stars out there, it feels kind of hyperbolic to say, but when you watch these movies and you see some of the things that he's doing, putting his body on the line to perform these stunts, and the way they seem to up the ante with every film.
Yes.
It is, I mean, it's something to be commended.
No matter how preposterous every mission is, when he first accepts them, where they go, the people they meet, it's insane. But we've all embraced it and have welcomed it, and we know what kind of show we're getting, and it's really what movies should be doing.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, with even all the long career that he's had, Tom Cruise, this has kind of been his saving grace. Like anytime something else didn't make money, he came back and did one of these, and it's been such a mainstay in his career that to say goodbye to something like this, no matter how Final Reckoning ends, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
I do have a question about that on the front end.
About
None of Final Reckoning.
Oh, okay.
None of us have seen it yet.
Right.
Do
Correct.
we think that Ethan Hunt will die?
I don't know. I don't know if Tom Cruise allows Ethan Hunt to die. I don't know if he goes off into the sunset either. So I don't know, spoiler alert, if this is like a Daniel Craig Bond or if they will allow it. I don't know. I do feel like a Simon Pegg, Ving Rhames, I feel like are probably like one of them's probably going to go.
Good for Simon Pegg for this franchise, by the
Yeah.
way,
Yes,
too.
I just saw an
Made
article,
some
I didn't
money.
read it, where it kind of saved him because I think he was going through an alcoholism type thing, and I think it pulled him out of it. I didn't read it. I just read headlines.
Yeah, there you
So-
go. That's
We'll get into it, but I think he's a highlight. Like when
I do
he
too.
comes in.
I do too.
He adds way more than he probably gets credit for.
Yeah.
And then, but what was it? Dead Reckoning was the last one. And actually, if you watch it, it says Dead Reckoning Part 1 because it was supposed to be Part 2. And then I like that it's Dead Reckoning and Final Reckoning. But I liked Rebecca Ferguson.
She's great.
We'll get into it. I think they kind of are still a little catching up as far as like the women in the movies.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Especially early on. But still, I don't know. It's hard to imagine him going, but if he does, then what kind of finale? All the stuff he's been through and everything he's done, what could do it? Unless it is that kind of like sacrifice to save the team type thing, which is
Because that's
probably
been a theme throughout.
right, which is probably the only way that he's going to go. I don't think it's just going to be like the villain got him. I think it is going to be where he's going down with whatever, and the entity, I guess, is obviously the big thing here.
I kind of feel like it could be one of those like questionable sort of endings, like where you don't really in the true spirit
maybe the
of the
end
film.
of it
It's
is-
like you don't really know. Like maybe you think he's died,
That's true.
but you don't really know for sure, and they just kind of hang it out there as like an open.
Maybe he's
ended thing.
sitting and having a cup of Joe at a cafe, and Michael Caine's across from when he does.
That's
a little,
exactly what I was thinking about. A
head nod.
Dark Knight Rises kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Just has a
that
little like okay.
He's somewhere
And
out there.
you know who it needs to be? Ving Rhames.
Yeah,
There you go.
just recreate.
Replay
that
this
scene.
after we see this, and I swear to God, if there's anything close to it, I'm starting to
It's like where he
miss Cleo.
finally walks away, and you don't really know.
I feel like there should be that kind of ending for him. Like I don't think he has to go in like a blaze of glory, but does he? Not a retirement, but just like, all right, man, you've earned this piece.
What if the movie ends with an actual like corporate retirement party, like in an office?
like,
yeah, like a cake and everything.
I thought you were going to say
Sean
what if,
Hamm's there. He
what if-
has to be.
Yes.
What if the movie ends with a corpse?
Well, that was my first question.
Just
Yeah.
goes in and just a nice corporate part. Jason Bateman and John Hamm are there to welcome them. They're playing themselves for no reason.
Yeah.
Just doing that. That would be
It's
fun.
at the studio office.
That would be yeah.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
To your point, Brandon, something you said a little bit ago that I wanted to kind of circle back on, talking about kind of leaving this alone for a little bit before it comes back. I think it's one thing, I told you guys, cramming all 7 of these movies in over like a 2-week spell for me kind of got difficult in the middle of this because you kind of start feeling like it's all one movie. It's all the
We
same,
can run
same
together.
thing.
It can, yeah.
But I feel like when I looked at the release dates for these, I kind of applauded the fact that they didn't just put one of these out every year for a period of time. You're talking like 4 to 6 years between most of these films. I think the shortest gap is obviously going to be between Dead Reckoning and the Final Reckoning, 2 years. Prior to that, it was a 3-year period between Rogue Nation in 2015 and Fallout in 2018. Other than that, it's been at least four years between each of these films. And
the third one was in 2006, and then the next one was 2011.
Yeah. Well, even before that, MI2 was 2000, and MI3 was 2006.
That's true.
So
yeah,
they've done a good job of pacing these and kind of allowing
getting the excitement stirring again before it's like boom, boom, boom,
stirring
boom.
again. Yeah. And so I would hope that I don't recall off the top of my head who owns the intellectual property here, but I do hope that they stay consistent with that and like allow. This is probably going to be a pretty big movie. This is the conclusion of a big story, a big character arc.
Yeah.
Let it breathe for a little bit.
Well, I do think so. I think Paramount's been doing it since the beginning. But a lot of these, and especially as you get towards the end, it's basically a Tom Cruise, Christopher McQuarrie show. If there is a reboot, I don't see Tom Cruise not having a hand in it.
Yeah, you would hope so.
I think it's a Tom Cruise production, no matter what happens.
he's got a production credit on every single one of these.
Yeah, and sometimes he shares it with someone, and then I think, especially for Dead Reckoning, only because that obviously was the last one I watched, it's just a Tom Cruise production. Like he's fully kind of taken the reins on it. So, and I think he kind of does that with most of the stuff he's in, which a lot of actors do these days.
I mean, I think he's earned that at this point in his career.
Oh yeah, he has. Yeah.
I feel like, Stoney, you were asking the question about following these in real time. I feel like from 3 to Rogue Nation, is Rogue Nation 4?
1, 2, 3. Ghost Protocol is 4.
Protocol. So from 3 to Gross Protocol.
Who?
That's a
Gross
one.
Point Blank.
Yes. I feel like it was like, oh, they're going to keep going with these for a while. It wasn't just like, oh, we're doing a few of these. And I feel like the tone shifts at that point, and it kind of hits this like, new template for what they become.
Oh, yeah.
From
there's
that point
on. I didn't take notes for every one of them, but there is a turning point in these movies. But I also like we're like, at first, and I know we're about to kind of get into just like, chronological order and just kind of hit them. But I just love how, like, the first few is just like, oh, okay. This team. Oh, who are these people? Okay. It's this team for this movie. What's that woman? Oh, okay, well.
It almost feels like anthology-style storytelling, where we've got the same central character, but everything's different.
Yeah, but then they start kind of making this
little continuity.
This little cinematic universe where we've got some... like Vin Rames is the only thing until we kind of get into Simon Pegg, Rebecca Ferguson, some of these guys. Alec Baldwin's kind of in it for a couple. Jeremy Renner is kind of in it for a couple. Which I heard Jeremy Renner turned down the next one, which would have been Fallout, because he was in 4 and 5, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
In 2 of them.
And then he said he found out that he died, so he was like, nah. So he didn't come back.
Well, that's one way to do it.
I've got more on him when we get into those.
I actually appreciate him only because, we'll get to Mission Impossible, but I love that apparently they offered him half the salary for Hawkeye season 2 than they did for season 1, and he was in some interview and he's like, just because I got ran over doesn't mean like I put in half the performance, and I just thought, good for you. There's nothing like someone telling like either Mission Impossible or the MCU just say, nah.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm fine with him as an actor. He's not my favorite part of this franchise overall.
No, no, I agree with that. It was cool to see him, and Henry Cavill is the one.
God.
He's the one.
Oh,
anyway,
boy.
all right. I'm sorry.
That may be a whole corner we have to get.
That's right.
Yeah.
All
so
right.
Let's rewind it then.
Let's
dig right in. Let's go back to May 22nd, 1996. The very first Mission Impossible movie is released, directed by Brian De Palma, whose filmography, oh man, I didn't realize he did Snake Eyes with Cage in 98.
Brian De Palma's a big name, and I had no idea he directed
Scarface, Carrie.
I had no idea he directed The first Mission Impossible.
And Snake Eyes. How could we?
Yeah,
That's the first
the
movie
old
we
Nick
need to
Cage
mention
Snake
here.
Eyes.
Carlito's Way.
Yeah, him and Pacino were.
That's
Yeah.
fun to me though, when, especially in retrospect, when you realize like a big time director has done something like this that you've begun to think of as such a, its own kind of trope and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's fun to remember, like at the beginning, oh, this was a big name that did this. And it still is a big name, but it's a big name because it's associated with Mission Impossible, not because,
but it's also a
it's
very
big director on
respected,
their own.
acclaimed director that,
Right.
it's an action movie, but you're thinking it must be more because you've got someone like De Palma.
Well, in the first one, I mean, if we're getting into it, the first one, I was struck by how simple it is.
It feels like
Yeah.
a one-off. Like it feels like they made that movie and just thought, we're gonna
Right.
make this.
This
and,
is a television series. I
yeah,
forgot.
touche. We should have mentioned that
I was saying
earlier
because it's
from
credited
the
all the
60s.
way through. Yep. And so, but I think to bring it now, my notes have like, I had a lot of fun with the Mission Impossible movie. It can't help but be dated because it's 1996. It is funny to watch that and know, like, I know, like, Stoney,
Yeah.
this was yours, but like,
Yeah.
knowing what this franchise will become, it does start in it's just so simplistic.
I
In
mean,
the way that it does, and it's very kind of cliched at times. Of like, oh, the person that was over it, and oh, he was in on it, But
I watched Dead Reckoning. I just finished it today before we did this podcast, and one of my thoughts, I sat there and just kind of like processing, thinking about what I had just seen. It was like, I can't believe we got to that from that first movie.
yeah,
It's kind of wild to
it
think about.
is very wild.
These films kind of increasingly sprawl out and get bigger the
Oh,
further we get
absolutely.
into the series.
Absolutely.
Wilder and faster.
Yeah, but I still liked that first one. From
I do too.
1996.
I do too. And I think one, because it's what started it all, and two, you kind of just see like, I guess kind of the thought process and bringing these characters and kind of this espionage and spy, but how
Yeah.
it really is like that. The first one is more of like a kind of a thriller than like an action
Yeah,
movie. But you were talking about like what a wild ride, how far it's come. Let me tell you, when that first scene and that they love their mask trick.
that's crazy.
That mask
Let me just say,
wouldn't have fooled one damn person.
let me just say, as we go throughout, the mask becomes like, oh, here's the mask again. I love it every single time.
You know what? I did, except for in one of these movies, and I thought I've seen it way too many effing times.
I was like experiencing PTSD. Like by the time we got to the seventh film, I'm watching scenes like, is that even?
You didn't believe anyone was
I didn't
You didn't believe anybody.
I'm like, are they about to pull off a mask? Like I don't know what's
Yeah.
what's happening here.
There were times where I think it was on the fourth or fifth one. I was up at the TV just touching the screen, trying to grab it.
Trying to pull a mask
Yeah,
off.
but let me tell you, Vin Rames never wore a mask.
No, how
In case you're wondering,
is that who you kept trying to pull
that's
the mask
it.
off?
Yeah, it was like a cat playing. Like, meow,
Yeah.
In,
meow, meow.
in that first movie, talking about the simplicity, the famous scene is him suspended in that room
Yes.
with the laser.
God.
And that's
Yeah.
kind of the famous scene for all of Mission
Yes.
Impossible. And I was really struck by how quiet it is, how like
Yeah,
slow it
same.
is.
the
and-
one note I have on that is famous rope scene still rips.
yeah.
It's awesome.
Love how that was shot. And
Yeah.
and there's other things, and again, it's just of the time, it can't help but feel dated because I mean, obviously it is. I mean, almost 30 years, but that scene, it captivate like it did the day it opened. I'm still in awe of that scene. It and the sweat, and it is done so good.
Yeah. It's
It
great.
was done so good.
It's kind of rare, in my opinion anyway, to see a film that's based on futuristic technology and that sort of thing
Yeah.
still hold up well. But I felt like Mission Impossible held up pretty well to be a movie that's almost 30 years old at this point.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things where like it is crazy, but even then in '96, that was like, futuristic.
Yeah.
Like, my God, the stuff they can do. And I mean, obviously, with each movie, it gets, bigger and stuff. But I mean, as it should. I don't
Fair
think
enough.
it should go backwards. So, but yes, I think it was a good starting. I think it was a good starting point.
Something else that I noticed that I felt like, and I would have never noticed this if I hadn't, I'd seen, what's the most recent one called? Final Reckoning?
Dead Reckoning.
Dead Reckoning.
And then Final Reckoning's the one
Too
that's
many
coming
reckonings.
out.
I'd seen Dead Reckoning within the last year, even before we started rewatching these. And so I remembered Kittredge, and he's in that first one too. But then he's like not in it at all. So I thought that was a nice touch that they bring him
I am
back
too.
later on.
And I thought it was nice to see a sane John Voight. He looked pretty sane in
He
this.
still had clarity in his
Still had-
eyes.
I thought that's a nice touch. I don't know if that's just great acting or what, but
This
good
is
for him.
kind of an aside, but those early movies always have that guy that's like, oh, he's in this movie. So
And he's not remembered for his acting now. Sort of like a Kevin Spacey. No one really is. I mean, John Voight was a tremendous actor, but depending on how old you are, you don't know that.
Well, and they
At
keep
all.
that because it's him. The second one has Sir Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah.
The third one has Lawrence Fishburne. Like they kind of keep
Yeah.
this going of like this notable like veteran actor that shows up in these movies.
Well, we'll get to that third one because there ain't nobody better than one of the guys in there.
Yeah. Well, do we want to move on to MI2?
Yeah, let's
I
talk
do
about
want to just
MI2.
point out that Emilio Estevez is in the first one.
Yes.
And that was a surprise to me.
I
too.
was shocked, and then when he died, I thought, "Oh, that's why I don't remember him."
Yeah.
Now I get it. But they had a lot of good people in that first one.
Yep.
But I also feel like Mission Impossible, fun movie. I would like to think. I'm sure De Palma probably was very. Was what a lot of. I mean, who wouldn't want to work with him anyway? So, yeah.
So Mission Impossible 2 released May 24th, 2000. To me, this film sticks out like a sore thumb in the series. Not in a good way. It felt like a hot mess. It felt like the plot was kind of a fever dream, like almost like a series of dreams instead of an actual story here. Directed by John Woo. Where do you guys stand on MI2 and its place in this franchise's history?
It's the stain in the franchise.
Yeah. I mean, if not for this film, I'm hard
Top
pressed.
tier.
I'm hard pressed to think of many franchises that are better and more consistent.
And
than
listen,
this.
7 out of 8, you're batting pretty good.
Yeah, touche.
But yes, I have that it was a significant downgrade. And if they didn't do that mask trick once, they did it 50 flipping times.
Oh
and
my
I'm going to tell
gosh.
you, it never happened again. But in that movie, I thought this is getting really stupid.
It felt like a gimmick.
Very much. A cheesy and forgettable villain. The only thing I kind of walked away with, which I don't know how you guys felt, is there was the signs that, like with the stunts and stuff, that it was gearing up to what would eventually become this action spectacle. I think there were glimpses of that. And John Woo likes that kind of stuff. He did, Face Off for one, but he hasn't really made
It's
anything good in a long time.
What he did right before Mission Impossible
Yeah.
2.
So I must have got him the gig.
I have not heard of any of the films that he's done since.
Well, his also
Since
big thing was
Paycheck.
him and Chow Yun Fat. They did some stuff before Face Off. What was after Mission Impossible 2?
He did Wind Talkers in 2002.
That's
which
Nick Cage. That's an Army one.
I remember liking that, but I
Yeah.
don't remember anything
Yeah.
about that film. And then Paycheck in 2003.
Yeah. So
Don't sleep on Paycheck.
I remember liking Paycheck.
I did too at the time.
think
I probably
At the
wouldn't
time,
now,
yeah,
but-
it's
it
I
was
did
all
at the
right.
time.
What was that? Is that Affleck and Uma Thurman?
Yeah, Aaron Eckhart.
Aaron Eckhart's
and
in it
with
too.
Paul Giamatti.
Paul G. He's all. He
I don't
sneaks
remember
into
him in that
everything.
movie.
I don't either.
I don't either.
After
but
that, he did All the Invisible Children,
never heard of it.
Red Cliff Part 1 and Part 2.
that one was one of those like epic war movies that it
Yeah.
actually was pretty good.
Reign of Assassins,
No.
The Crossing Part 1 and Part 2, Manhunt, Silent Night. Oh, that was the
yeah.
David
I got a
Harbour
review on
movie?
that. No, that's with Joel Kinnaman,
Joel Kinnaman.
where he
yeah.
literally can't talk, and anyway, it's not very good.
And then he did the Killer in 2024.
Yeah, which is actually a remake of his
remake
own
of-
movie.
Yeah.
And anyway, that wasn't very good either. So
That's pretty cool though to make a movie in 1989 and then come back and remake it.
I mean,
And,
that is cool.
it's cool to get to do.
Yeah.
I don't know, not speaking to the quality. Of
I
the
just
film.
wonder how it feels to almost ruin the franchise before
I know,
it could get before it became a franchise.
like John Woo is just always going
That-
to have this on his resume.
I think that's why there's a significant gap between
Well, it's
the
6 years.
second and the
And
third one.
When I watched this movie, I tweeted about it and I said like this is terrible. Like this is one of the worst movies I've seen in a long time. And someone, I think it was my guy Hurricane Lou, replied to it and said, "Just wait. Philip Seymour Hoffman got that whole franchise back on track."
Also share what you said, I think, on Letterboxd about the soundtrack, because that's an important part of this movie to me.
Yeah, the Limp Bizkit and the
Yeah.
Metallica songs.
Yeah.
That's the thing that stands out to me about this one. I agree completely as far as it being the weak spot in the series. I feel like it's the most of its era. And part of that is I have
That's
this
true.
nostalgic thing. I don't know if you guys remember this. There was huge promotion on like the MTV Movie Awards.
TRL.
They did this thing with Ben Stiller
Yes.
as
Yeah.
his stunt
Yes.
double.
Yes.
And I remember the music videos, the Limp Bizkit song, the Metallica song. And so in my mind, I was a little bit surprised when I went back and watched it. It was like, oh, this is not a good movie. Because
Yeah.
as
There
a
was so
14-year-old
much-
kid or whatever, I thought this is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
It was a big
at
event
that
too.
time, and
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
the music and everything.
You're exactly right. Of its like it represents exactly 2000, but it just goes to show you that they did some nice tricks because that movie was actually quite a shit show, and it just had Tom Cruise riding around all in black on a motor. I mean, that's really all it was. Like the villain, I thought even the last even some of the action wasn't that impressive. Now it did the stunts, you could tell or more, but the first Mission Impossible was not this stunt spectacle anyway. So it's like he was trying to kind of do his action that Wu was known for, but it just, I mean, sure, but the story and even like the mission, I mean, it was just such a mess. And honestly, I'm glad we went back because I'm going to tell you, Stoney's right. It sticks out immensely. Like it doesn't even seem like it should ever have even been a part of this, which just shows you like the fact that they got to the third one is pretty impressive. And it wouldn't have worked without, I think, J.J. Abrams coming in and getting a villain like Philip Seymour Hoffman and kind of redirecting like, okay, what do we want to do with this?
Well, and from a filmmaking perspective, 1 and 2, you talked about 1 looking dated, and it does, and
Yeah.
some of the
And it's
technology,
not necessarily in
all
a
of
bad
that.
way, but yeah.
But I think it just shows the difference between quality filmmaking and
Yes, and trying
the lack
to go
thereof.
for yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we look at the second one and we say, "Oh yeah, that was made in 1999."
John Woo
2000.
should have never directed a movie in his entire life. I got it.
That's the takeaway from that. Yes,
Yeah,
obviously.
got it.
I will say about Mission Impossible 2, it's always a delightful surprise when Brendan Gleeson shows up.
Oh yeah,
So I was at least happy to see him.
I know. But then I'm like, you know what? He would have been great in another Mission Impossible movie.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah.
He could
Later
have been the
on.
big bad villain.
He could have been, yeah. Speaking of big bad villains, let's go on to Mission Impossible 3 from May of 2006. You mentioned it a second ago. This is J.J. Abrams directing this one. Philip Seymour Hoffman, just what an absolute asshole.
I love that opening scene.
It's so good.
And the way he delivers it is a man that is for sure means what he says.
Yeah, you
and
don't.
he doesn't even. It's not dramatic.
Yeah,
it's not theatrical. He looks at him and is like, "I'm going to kill her, and I'm going to kill her in front of you. I'm going to ask you one." Like and everything around it is not nearly as calm as the way he's speaking to Ethan Hunt.
Yeah,
I love it.
The delivery it just indicates a sort of coldness about him, where it's
this
like
is business.
I'm not about all of these games. I'm not trying to intimidate you. I'm trying to get what I want, and I don't really care.
Yeah, absolutely.
What you think, I don't care if you're scared or not. I'm telling you what's going to happen if you don't comply.
And I thought their little fight was pretty good.
Yeah, I did too.
To make it believable. For this one, it felt like a reset of sorts.
It did.
I thought it was a solid rebound with a fantastic supporting cast. I know you, Brett, you talked about Lawrence Fishburne. That's when Michelle Monaghan comes in as his girlfriend or wife. That's when Simon Pegg gets in the mix. Billy Crudup is in it. Then I have, of course, Philip Seymour Hoffman, who is, I think, arguably the best MI villain.
Yep.
More than anything, it made me miss him.
Yeah.
Because he was damn good.
Well, and what y'all are talking about is just his ability as an actor to be so quiet, so reserved, but so powerful, like in those scenes.
But and it's just this like Stoney said, it's just this coldness of like, it's scarier because he's not. I mean, he's fine.
Yep.
He's like you said. This is what's going to happen, and it's going to be with you, and then he won't think about it again. Like it was. I don't know. I love that's one. Even though some of the opening scenes are fun, I think that one really, to me, is one of the most mesmerizing things in the whole franchise because of just a conversation that's happening, and obviously, it comes back to that. But yeah, what a flip of the switch. And I will credit J.J. Abrams because I know for at least the next maybe 2 or 3, his Bad Robot is a part of this Mission Impossible franchise. So I think it had to take someone like him to kind of reverse course, and thank God they did.
Yeah, I made a note that this one was gritty, and maybe the most gritty of the franchise.
Yeah.
And I think it's what you said, Stoney, about whoever mentioned to you, they get back on track. That opening scene, that's not, this is a fun stunt, let's watch how cool this is. It's dark, it's heavy, it's all of those. It's like, we're doing something completely different than what we just did.
It felt, watching it in succession, like one after another, you could really feel the change. And to what we were talking about a second ago, it was almost like, okay, we're not marketing a product here. We're not selling music videos. We're not on MTV, on TRL, that sort of thing. We're really going to tell a story and really like push this to a different level, is what it felt like watching it in real time. And
it wouldn't have worked depending on who you would have to play that villain, because that's really, the first one's memorable because it's a traitor betrayal situation. Obviously, the second one, no one probably even remembers or cares. So if you're going to do this, and like we talked about, a rebound, a reset, whatever you want to call it, who do you get? And honestly, I don't really know, and maybe I'm forgetting, but I think he's probably the most well-known actor of the whole franchise who played a villain. I know there's Henry Cavill late, but I mean, like, an acclaimed actor that this really isn't what he does.
Yeah.
But you bring him in, and he just brings that kind of gravitas that you want. And I don't think that's ever really been done before or after.
Yep. Agreed completely.
I guess John Voight in 96. I mean, that was a big deal. I mean, that was a big deal. But
do you Philip Seymour Hoffman was not their first choice for this.
No, shame on them.
It's kind of funny how things work out sometimes. It was so the film was originally supposed to be David Fincher's to direct.
Oh wow,
that's interesting.
David Fincher drops out creative differences
I
over
bet.
the direction of the series.
I bet.
They landed on Joe Carnahan, and
yeah.
Joe Carnahan, another creative dispute, he drops out, and then Tom Cruise actually makes the call to J.J. Abrams to get this thing. But in Carnahan's version of the film, Kenneth Branagh is the villain in this film.
I can see
I
that.
can ride with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
I'm glad it worked out the way it did, because I have seen Branagh, I guess, like with Tenet stuff. Like, I mean, I think he would have been good, but I am kind of glad we went with, like, I guess, an American villain. But again, it wouldn't even matter. But they got it just right for it to have Hoffman in it. It's probably crazy now, but I'll be honest with you. Even before I rewatched all these, and the action and stuff obviously has become the main event of everything, I still always remember Philip Seymour Hoffman as the villain.
well, that's not where the story ends here. It's not just Kenneth Branagh. There's
Oh my
another
God.
actor
I hope Hoffman didn't know.
that was that was a different film.
Well, that's
To
true.
be
That was
fair,
with Carnahan. All right, that's true.
we
That's
get to J.J. Abrams, and he actually, they offer the role to Billy Bob Thornton,
Oh my God.
who turns them down because he was at the time tired of being typecast as the villain.
Okay, well, but that opening scene doesn't go the way.
It does not go the way I'm telling you. Like,
It's just
the
funny
stars
how it
align
thinks.
sometimes.
Yeah, it's true.
The
It's
stars
true.
align sometimes. They go with Philip Seymour Hoffman.
That is funny.
And the rest is history, as they
Yeah.
say. Also, another interesting note in here: Simon Pegg was not the first choice to play Benji.
How dare they?
Oh my God.
Any guesses?
Chris Farley.
Toby Jones.
Ricky
Nice.
Gervais.
Oh God.
Yeah. So
That would be so weird.
I'm.
Yeah,
If
but
you
he's
think
got
of-
that energy.
He does, but think about the other movies, and I don't see him doing shit.
It doesn't. Simon Pegg has so much heart in various
Yes.
parts throughout the
Yes.
series. It's hard to imagine Ricky Gervais doing that
And
as well.
with his introduction, and he only gets better with each movie, he almost is the audience, because it's stuff that, like, it shouldn't make sense, and like they're here, and like he makes a comment in one of them where he's like, "Oh, or for us it's just a Monday." Like, clearly this shit is crazy. Like, and he kind of embodies that, because everyone else is like playing it cool, and you need someone to be like, "This is crazy, like this is insane." So he's great. I'm so glad that everybody got introduced in the way that they did. But yeah, it really did make me miss. It made me want to go back and watch other Philip Seymour Hoffman movies. Actually,
Watch
Yeah.
Magnolia.
I'm kind
Magnolia?
of. It's out of his wheelhouse a little bit. It feels
It
a
is.
little
It is.
different to the rest of his filmography, but
Yeah.
it's just a testament to the range that he had
yeah,
as
and
an
it
actor.
works. Like, he knew it. He talk about knowing the assignment. That dude, he knew it.
Is it like I know we speak in hyperbole all the time when we're talking about movies, and things are said in jest that aren't necessarily meant to be serious, but the comment like Philip Seymour Hoffman is the MVP of this franchise if they don't turn it around without him. I mean, obviously Tom Cruise, the MVP of the franchise, but
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a given.
outside of Cruise, I think at the very least you could make an argument that Philip Seymour Hoffman's villain role in the third movie did kind of bring a new sense of brevity to the franchise. That kind of, I don't think it's unreasonable to say that it got the franchise back on track.
I agree, and I think Tom Cruise aside, I think Hoffman is kind of up front, but I do think you got Vin Rames again, but then you've got Lawrence Fishburne and you've got Billy Crudup. Like, you're at least introducing more of these guys that do play a part. Now they're not in all the movies like Cruise and Vin Rames is, but now, okay, Simon Pegg's in it now, which I'll be honest, I didn't realize he came in on the third one. I always thought he came in on the fourth or fifth. I didn't realize he had been around this franchise for as long as he has. So, I mean, that's really impressive because I mean, Shaun of the Dead was what, early 2000s, so he's basically been in Mission Impossible most of his career. So
well, and there's an evolution with him too.
Absolutely.
In this one, he's a much smaller and much less kind of comedic relief as he becomes.
Yes, I agree.
The other thing I wanted to call out about this one is the Michelle Monaghan piece, because I think that's really important because it established more weight. Again, kind of in the same thing we're talking about Philip Seymour Hoffman. It was like, we're not doing the Bond girl where it's just a different, which they kind of get off track as they go throughout, and that kind of changes some. But
they do.
I feel like it gave a groundedness and a weight to, there's something really at stake here.
Yes, and I think it's also in that same kind of vein is it's personal. The first one was personal because it dealt with, the team turned against you. But so they did kind of bring it back to where like, oh yeah, you know what? You really care. And I think Michelle Monaghan, and now this was kind of like her, like, she pops up again, but I felt like her and Rebecca Ferguson are really the only two actresses that sort of get like a real like crucial role. There's others where they play it, but then they're kind of gone. Like even like Vanessa Kirby, who was in the last couple. It's not the same. Like I get it, but it's just not the same. And then there's the others that just kind of show up where it's like, what I will say, and I mean I think it still kind of is battling with it right now in the Final Reckoning, but it's like we introduce these ladies and it's almost like maybe they're romantic with Ethan, but they're really not. But somehow they get kind of like Haley Atwell just kind of gets twirled up in it, and we're off to the races.
Yes.
That's probably my only real gripe about this whole franchise is that they never seem to really know how to capture like any kind of female character. Because like Angela Bassett shows up and she's kind of there, and I know she's in this one, but it's like clearly they don't have anything to do. And the women that do, it's almost like some of them are just come and go within like that story. And then, I think, what is it, 2 years, 3 years? Like, I mean, there's always time jumps after each one. But anyway, that's kind of the only thing that kind of makes me laugh as you go through it, and you're like, they really still don't really have a handle on, like, it kind of gets better. And I feel like Rebecca Ferguson is kind of that character that really kind of brings it.
Yes.
And even Michelle, like nobody had done that before, but I also feel like that kind of came with, not so much with Me Too, but kind of like, okay, we've got to add some more depth. We've got to also have where like, yes, women can kick ass, and that, so that's something I've kind of noticed. And even, like I said, there's even like, there's fun actresses in it, but like, was it really like that much? And it's that Bond girl, process thing. Like, it's like they're there and they serve a purpose, but it's not for much, and it's not very long.
Yeah.
So then we move on to 2011 for Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, which involves the IMF being shut down after publicly implicated in a bombing of the Kremlin, causing Ethan Hunt and his team to go without resources or backup in a life-threatening effort to clear their names. We've talked about kind of ramping things up with the third installment of this film. Ghost Protocol, I thought, was a good continuation of that tone. But this was kind of where Ghost Protocol and Rogue Nation were where I kind of started getting a little jumbled up in this.
I've really written down where this is. I feel like this one is where it kind of finds its groove and what it wants to do.
Yeah.
For better or for worse, this from here on, it's the Mission Impossible that we know of. I like that they're for the first time in a while, and I think because Simon Pegg his character keeps growing, this was one of the first times where I felt like humor was actually like a part of the movie. I I think this is also where it kind of Mission Impossible, the movie itself, doesn't take itself as serious as it did. I think they are kind of just having more fun with it, which is cool. One of my notes is this is to me, and I think it kind of goes to what Stoney was saying. I feel like this is where the franchise really kind of kicks into gear. It's heading down the path of pure adrenaline-fueled, heart-pounding action, and it's crews defying death, and that's how that's how from here to the final reckoning is.
It becomes about those action scenes.
Yes, very much so.
You know, we were talking about the reset of number 3, and you just said, you know, in this one they start to have more fun.
Mm-hmm.
But you need that reset for 3 to get to the version of fun action movies that we get from here on out.
Yeah.
Because if not, if you go from 2 and you just continue on in that pattern, it's just goofy at that point.
I mean, honestly, when you look at it, I do think I never have thought about it before, but 3 ends up really kind of being very significant in what this, like, in this franchise becoming the behemoth that it is.
Well, and
you're right. You couldn't turn from 2 to this one if you didn't have that 3 where we kind of brought it back down. And again, you've got the right cast, you've got the right villain, and now it's like, okay, now we're just like, we're going to take off.
Yeah.
But you're right. I don't think it gets off the ground without 3.
And Stoney, you've mentioned multiple times about kind of the movies start to blend together a little bit at this point. But I agree with that, but I view that kind of as a good thing for the movies. That it's what you said, Brandon. They start to hit their stride, and they almost become, outside of standout moments, they almost become interchangeable in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. But it's like, at the same time, it's like, if you love one of these, you're going to love them all.
Exactly. That's the way I would put it. Yeah.
I think it's very well said, because there's stunts that I remembered, but I couldn't tell you which movie they were in. Mm-hmm. But I just remember, I remember the Dead Reckoning bike one, because that was like that was in every preview. But like, when he's on that skyscraper, or when he's hanging off the plane, and it's like, okay, where was, that was in one of them. But it's not really a knock on it, because you're right. It's almost like from here on, you're buckle up and everybody's along for the ride. Mm-hmm.
So this was Brad Bird's live action directorial
from the
debut.
Incredibles.
Yeah, from The Iron Giant in 1999, The Incredibles in 2004, and then of course Ratatouille in 2007.
Duh.
Then he goes on to do Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. And after that, Tomorrowland and The Incredibles 2, working on an Incredibles 3. But
so 2 live action movies.
And an interesting choice to direct this film.
I agree. And I would have never guessed, but it fits right in with what Christopher McQuarrie and them end up doing afterwards.
Well, you mentioned that Rogue Nation, released in 2015, is the introduction of Christopher McQuarrie as director. I'm assuming this is born out of their work together on Jack Reacher in 2012.
Yeah.
But this is, to Brett's point a second ago, it kind of feels like this is where they've really hit their stride in this movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, Tom Cruise will not work with another director for the rest of this franchise. So from here on out, it's them two.
Well, I mean, I was about to say they've done some pretty good work together.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, it works. But do you know one of the I did not know this, and I was looking at Christopher McQuarrie. He is an Oscar winner. And do you know, and it was for writing, Stoney might be about to find it, but I was shocked for the movie that it was. So he won for best original screenplay. Mm-hmm. He wrote The Usual Suspects.
Oh.
You
know what?
I
might have seen that in looking into some of his stuff.
I had no idea.
But I didn't know it before.
And I think he had written some stuff for, like, I think he may have even written with Edge of Tomorrow. Like, I feel like he was a writer on some Cruise stuff.
He has a ton of credits producing and writing
And didn't he have something to do with American Made? Like, I feel like he's been kind of with Cruise for a little bit, but directing wise came later. But I feel like he had written some stuff.
He wrote
that he's
Edge
in.
of Tomorrow, and then
There you
he
go.
wrote The Mummy,
Oh, okay. Well,
and he wrote Top Gun Maverick, or he has a writing credit.
yeah, he
for-
did.
for
I was going
Top
to say,
Gun
yeah,
Maverick.
he was on that. Which I mean, they've become. I mean, as close
bros.
as yeah. I mean,
They're bros.
But I mean, clearly there's success there. So, so yeah. I mean, and honestly, they really did take it to another level.
Yeah.
With I mean, Ghost Protocol, we're getting there. Rogue Nation kind of sets it up, and then, in my opinion, by the time you get to Fallout, we're in peak Mission Impossible.
Well, and Rogue Nation has some of those pieces that made 3 good, but that we've
Yeah.
also talked about. It has Rebecca Ferguson coming in. which
Yep. And Jeremy Renner comes in too, right?
He was. The
Was
one
he in-
before.
Oh, he was in Ghost Protocol too.
Protocol, which
Okay.
I was going to mention. He and Paula Patton to me are just kind of. Paula Patton is
Oh,
the
I
most
totally forgot
like,
about
who
her.
cares.
Yeah, I
And
totally forgot she was
maybe
in
the
it.
poorest use of a female character.
Yeah,
in one
I
of these.
totally forgot. And like Jonathan Rhys Meyers, was he in the second one?
I don't remember which one.
I mean,
he was in.
they don't die, but he's not there anymore. So I feel like whoever was in that second movie, Cruise did not allow back.
Yeah.
So
But Rebecca Ferguson, one of my notes was she was elder mother before we even knew it from
Yeah.
Dune. She's great. Like
I love her.
She brings that weight. It is, this is jumping ahead a little bit, but we mentioned it earlier. In Dead Reckoning,
Mm-hmm.
the piece with her and Haley Atwell's a little bit odd.
Yeah.
In that you get this moment, and we'll get there, where he's kind of torn between these two allegiances.
Where he
and
has
it's
to.
and it's just
yeah.
kind of like this person you just met versus this person
yeah.
that you have all this history with
Yeah.
going back
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
Rogue Nation.
Yeah.
You could have said it right then and there.
Yeah.
You just said, "Hey, listen, you know."
I just met her. She
In the
can
words
go.
in the words of Lloyd Christmas, okay, kill her.
I mean,
Yeah.
I agree, and that's what I mean. And Rebecca Ferguson probably is the one highlight as far as all of the female performances, where I think she got the best one.
Well, and I like, and this includes her. It includes Solomon Lane, that the villain.
Oh,
They-
yeah,
they
yeah.
start to build out this kind of universe, and it stretches beyond just this
yeah.
movie at this point. I like to call Solomon Lane Mousy because I
he
didn't know
does
his
look-
name for a while, and
Yeah.
I just that's
No,
the name
that's
I came-
accurate. You should have started with
Thank
that. I would have known.
Yeah, that actually might have been better than me saying Solomon Lane.
Yeah.
But I do like that they, it starts to have some depth of we're going from more than one movie at this point, and not just kind of like we were talking about, like almost like a procedural or anthology, like
Yeah.
one-off kind of deal.
Yeah.
Let's talk Fallout then. 2018. To me, this was I could not take my eyes away from the screen on this one. I think it is the strongest of the franchise, in my opinion.
I'm with you.
We talk about those action scenes, and it's just banger after banger.
It
really
after
is.
banger.
It is.
It really is.
It's astonishing. That bathroom scene
Yes.
is still so cool, but then, and it's different. So I'm not comparing them, but like the whole just chasing each other in helicopters. And
It's
It's
crazy.
like, this shouldn't happen and probably can happen, but the world that they have established for so many years, you're like you said, you can't take your eyes off it. You don't, and the fact that Tom Cruise really is doing a lot of this stuff, you're watching someone. It just seems like, it's like movie magic. Like, it's
It really
rare
is,
that
yeah.
you see that. And, like Stoney said, he's one of the last kind of real movie stars. And you're like, you can't help but be captivated by it all.
There is a quality to these movies that, like I like a movie that makes me sit with my thoughts for a while after the film and think about the themes and parallels to real life and what the movie is really saying, and metaphorically speaking.
Like Cursed.
there is something to be said for like good old fashioned filmmaking of just
Yes.
doing really cool shit
Yes.
and putting it on camera
And
for people to see. And there is something to that this franchise, even in its later stages, like the consistent throughout, there is something about this franchise that just feels like between like the old school kind of movie star name with Tom Cruise in there, with just the stunt work and the action and all that, the spectacle that it is. There is something about this that almost feels nostalgic in a way. It's like this is kind of a testament not to like the art of filmmaking or anything like that, but like just the real spirit of a blockbuster kind of deal. Like big movie making.
And not to say like there's no CGI, but it's not one that you notice, but you also know that you know for a fact, because part of it is why you go see them, and it's very much a huge part of the marketing that he's jumping out of this, and he's writing that and gonna let it go. I mean, obviously there's safety, but I mean, there's no there's a blue screen or green screen behind him, and he's 5 feet off the ground. I mean, that's in the locations. My God, they keep getting bigger and better and more beautiful each time.
Yeah, I think that...
I don't know if it's possible now with tariffs, but but used to, it was beauty.
That
Real
is
beauty.
something that I noticed, like the further we get into the series, the more and more the setting appears to add character to the film.
Yes. And I have a feeling that really starts playing a part when McQuarrie gets involved.
Yes.
And they kind of really ramp that up.
Yes.
But I agree. That whole movie is just, it's nonstop. It's thrilling. The fights, the acting. Henry Cavill, I think, is great in it. I love with Angela Bassett, kind of the small role she plays, but she does kind of bring this kind of power and confidence that, you want and you kind of believe in. Rebecca Ferguson still, I mean, it's so well done. And I thought that was my favorite, and after watching it, it's definitely my favorite.
It definitely holds up.
Yeah.
It makes me think of a similar movie to me in what we're talking about is Top Gun Maverick. In that, it's like, this isn't the best movie I've ever seen, but it may be the best version of a movie like this I've ever seen.
Yeah.
What you were talking about, the blockbuster aspect. That just, there's nothing better than the way this is being done.
And I got to say, and I'm hoping to see Final Reckoning in IMAX, but Mission Impossible for years has been something that it's awesome. Listen, it's awesome just watching it. But I mean, if Tom Cruise believes in that theatrical experience, and every single one of these movies, besides maybe two, that's why you go to the theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One note that I made talking about those action scenes is, and they do this several times in the last 3 or 4 movies, they cut the music all together, and all you're getting is the roar of the engine or the
wind,
for 5 minutes straight. And I mean, it's so intense.
In Dead Reckoning, they did that where he jumps off that bike fight, and then it goes, and you don't hear nothing, and then when you do, it's just the wind.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's some
crazy.
good sound design. That's some good editing too.
Also, we've already touched on this, but Henry Cavill is the most handsome person that God ever made.
Yeah. And when you're standing next to Tom Cruise,
Yeah, that
you
says
better
something.
look.
Yeah.
And Alec Baldwin.
I actually got in an argument with my wife recently about how good Henry Cavill was, how good he looks. Now, you might think I was telling her to calm down.
Right.
She was telling me to calm down.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it.
She was not excited enough.
He looks... That's probably the best he's looked. If I think of other movies, that's probably even like Man of Steel and stuff. I think that's the best he's looked, and he gets to use his accent.
That's right.
He's the real deal.
That's true.
And their whole fight, like it was that bathroom scene alone, it was so cool watching it. And there's not even like. It's like that John Wick. It's like there's real training involved because the way they're moving is not like these computer generated. Like it's the real thing. Like, I don't know. it's the ways that it is authentic is still so impressive to this day.
Yep.
So that leaves us with Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning from 2023 is the most recent film. Where do we stand on it?
Still another solid one. I think, knowing that it was a part one, but I didn't really feel the disappointment or the letdown of it. I know it kind of just stops in the key, and then, that ends with showing the submarine. But
they make it feel like there are real stakes, even though we all knew going in
it can't be finished.
You get to the end and almost nothing has happened. As far as there's some character development that's very important.
Yeah, and the key stuff, and that's real.
But it really does circle back and leave you where you started.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Quite literally. Quite literally.
That's true.
Yeah.
But then it's kind of like, because of Dead Reckoning, Final Reckoning, being basically the same one, it does at least add something to it because, again, we kind of get introduced to Gabriel because he killed, I guess, this other woman that Ethan Hunt liked before Mission Impossible. So how do you make that worth telling? Because there's been a lot of women that come through this franchise that he might like, but we don't really get. So I do kind of like that. And I feel like a lot of movies do this in a way of they kind of go back to the beginning, and then that's a way to just instantly make it personal. Mm-hmm. But then you kind of add this entity part and kind of the role that Gabriel really is, where he is the villain, but he's almost like the, not the sidekick, but he's almost kind of he's really just kind of like the puppet, and they know what the real thing is. But obviously, and I think the culmination of Dead Reckoning is what Ving Rhames tells him. Don't kill him. It's going to be tough when you look him in the eye, but don't do it. And that's really essentially what Dead Reckoning ends with. And just okay. But I'm fine with
the scene of him driving that motorcycle off the mountain with the parachute.
It's still awesome.
To me, that is that's an adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
Even just watching that.
I think Simon Pegg is really good in this one too.
Oh yeah, he is. He is.
You're right. The way that he's been able to that they've given him that, Vin Rhames is cool, but, he hasn't really changed. He's kind of just all reliable. Mm-hmm. But Simon Pegg has really kind of come into his own, and now he's a part of the action, and that was far from when he was in the third one. So I really like it. Now, obviously, this was a big one because Rebecca Ferguson's character does go down, and you were talking about, choosing between the two. I kind of liked the way she went out. She went out fighting the bad guy that even Ethan Hunt couldn't kill in the first movie. Yeah. So I like it, but I would choose. I'd be like, just get her. I don't even I met her 2 days ago. Yeah. But this one, I know I can count on her. So,
and Benji almost becomes the emotional core.
That's true too.
With Rebecca Ferguson.
That's true too. And but then Ving Rhames also has his share where he's she died for you to live, and that's the truth. And so, I will say his character, when he does say stuff like that, it does hit different because he's been there since the beginning. Mm-hmm. So it does have it definitely has more weight to it than if Jeremy Renner said it, for instance, something like that. You know.
Well, that's it. 7 movies.
Thank you guys for doing this. I'm really glad we were able to, especially since you had never seen a single one. It requires time and dedication, but I think we're all ready for Final Reckoning now.
I can't wait. I want to see it. My wife fell asleep halfway through the series, so I've got to go back and rewatch some of these with her so that she's ready for the new movie.
I don't think she's earned it.
But I can't. Well, she made it. I know we're about halfway through Fallout, so actually.
Oh, okay. Well,
I know she saw Henry Cavill because
she couldn't settle down.
Yeah.
So really, Brett, your reaction is
reasonable,
is quite
justifiable.
Well, no, I wasn't going to say that, but let's go with that. Do we want to try and? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I have one more question.
Okay.
I think it's interesting because you look at obviously this franchise, wildly successful, made a ton of money. Tom Cruise has become sort of a separate kind of wing of his legendary reputation.
Can I say, and I saw this, and I don't know who tweeted it, but they acted like around 2006,
Yeah.
his image took a real hit.
Yeah.
It was kind of with the jumping on the couch stuff, Scientology stuff. The movies he was making wasn't really doing anything. And someone said, like, is this the biggest Hollywood image turnaround in history? Because now he has kind of become this beloved figure around the world. And even though, like, the stuff, like, whether it was about Katie Holmes, Scientology, stuff with his kids, it doesn't really seem to matter now.
Yeah. So my question, looking at the importance of this franchise to, I mean, the box office, Tom Cruise's legacy, that sort of thing, is there a world where Tom Cruise actually gets some love from the Oscars for this role? If the belief is that he's truly walking away from, like, this is a hat tip.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't, not for this role.
Don't forget the stunt piece.
Right, but I don't think that goes into effect
That
till
doesn't
the
apply this year?
following.
Okay.
Following us. So,
Oh.
yeah, because if so, John Wick would be like a 3-time Oscar winner. But no, I don't think so. I think Tom Cruise will probably get an Oscar. I don't think it won't be for Ethan Hunt. But I will tell you this, as far as like
He's only been nominated 3 times.
cinema, I mean, Mission Impossible, and on some level, it changed the game on how we see and how we watch movies. And he's kind of done that a couple of times with some of the other movies he's done. And then, of course, Top Gun Maverick made him, I mean, almost untouchable because of just the success of it. Now, what's going to happen is they're going to try and make a third Top Gun Maverick. He's made 2 more Mission Impossible. So the real test is he is trying to go in a different direction. So he's in Ratu's new movie and he keeps talking about wanting to do a musical and stuff. So, you know, I mean, and I think there was talk at one time he was maybe going to be in Tarantino's movie before he got canceled. So I think he's kind of hit that age where, like, he's going to kind of get back to, like you said, he was nominated for Born on the 4th of July, Jerry Maguire, and Magnolia, I think.
Those are the 3.
I think he's going to try and get back to that. I would love for him to be in another PTA movie.
Yeah, I hope he does return to that.
It sounds like he is. I think he's kind of made a deal about it. So
I love these movies, and I've said, and it was about the 4th one that I said, as long as they keep making them, I'll keep going.
Yeah,
because they just kind of figured out the template at that point.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's so many of his movies. I've asked myself the question recently, like, he's probably not my favorite actor, but are there more movies that I like that someone is in than he's in? I don't know. Like, there's so many of his movies, and whether it's Jerry Maguire, A Few Good Men, Magnolia, or these, I mean, they're very different, but
well, and there's still
they
some
all
I
have
like
him.
that aren't like they're not the greatest thing, but like I think of like Minority Report. I love Collateral.
Yep.
I think that's one of his finest things he's ever done.
Yeah.
You take Mission Impossible and some of that out, Collateral's like top 3. Magnolia's up there performance wise. But yeah,
I think Collateral's is his best.
I love it. But,
I loved A Few Good Men too.
If you think about, I mean, he's worked with some of the best, and he's worked. He worked with Paul Newman, and he's worked. But I mean, my God, he's done, like, we kind of associate with kind of like Christopher McQuarrie because he's kind of got his people now. But I mean, he's worked with Spielberg and Michael Mann and Paul Thomas Anderson, and I mean, it is Brian De Palma. I mean, it is kind of. I mean, the man has done a lot, but he will. I think he sort of has become the kind of this action guy and stunt guy, and we'll see what this new path does, because I think there's some people that love Tom Cruise, and the thought of Tom Cruise is like, the action almighty, but there's others that do like A Few Good Men and Color of Money and Magnolia, Born on the Foot, stuff like that. Let's not leave out Eyes Wide Shut, one of Stoney's favorite films.
I love Eyes Wide Shut.
Well, and he's, to your question about him getting nominated for awards, he's got the acting chops if he goes back in that direction.
Yeah,
And
I just don't think it's Mission
I just
Impossible.
Was curious if it would be like a tip of the cap to his work in this, specifically as Ethan Hunt.
I kind of feel like what comes to my mind is kind of like when Johnny Depp got nominated for the first Pirates of the
That's
Caribbean.
exactly what I'm
I
thinking.
feel
yeah.
like if Tom Cruise was going to get nominated, it wouldn't have been for Final Reckoning. We would have seen that earlier. And since that has basically just been ignored, I don't think it's going to happen now.
Yeah. So do we want to try and rank these? I mean, I pretty easily go top 3 for me. It would be Fallout, Mission Impossible 3, and then Dead Reckoning.
I have, and this is only because I did on Letterboxd as I went through, but I have Fallout is 1, Dead Reckoning is 2, Rogue Nation 3, the original at 4, third is 5, Protocol is 6, and MI2 is last. But I would like to say that, I would like to say, besides the second one, which I gave 2 stars, all the rest are 3.5, 4, and
Same.
Fallout is 4.5.
Same.
I have Ghost Protocol at 3.5, Mission Impossible 3 at 3.5, and Mission Impossible at 3.5. Rogue Nation, Dead Reckoning's 4, Fallout is 4.5. I could almost give Fallout a 5.
Yeah.
Like
I feel like the only reason I
there.
didn't was because I was like, I can't give a Mission Impossible movie 5 out
Here's
of 5.
the thing. I kind of get it, but then I feel like if I do that a 5, then do I move the others up too
Yeah.
to 4.5? Because there are some where Fallout, I agree. I think it is the top tier MI movie, but and 2 is in a league of its own down there. But all the rest are really kind of shoulder to shoulder in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I think the action part of it, the Simon Pegg, the addition to that, meant a lot. But I also I could almost give a 4 to Mission Impossible 3 just for Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah.
Forget whatever else happened in there. So anyway, that's mine. Go ahead, Brett.
So I'll give my top 3, and I actually changed one of these just as a result of this conversation. I've got Fallout at 1. I moved 3 from 4 or 5 up to 2.
Oh.
Just based on what we've discussed and kind of how important it is. And then I've actually got Rogue Nation number 3, and then Dead Reckoning. And I've got the bottom 2, same as you, Brandon. Ghost Protocol and MI2, the bottom.
All right. Well,
Wow. I think we all basically were on the same page we at least know what the best and the worst is.
yeah, that's true.
So,
yeah.
Well, thanks again, guys. That was fun. I'm glad we did it just in time.
Yeah. Any parting thoughts before we get out of here?
I think you were supposed to do the music.
Boom. I was going to say, take us out.
You were throwing me off so
Sorry.
bad.
I was trying to do backup.
Oh my goodness.
Someone should have done that. Where they light that fuse.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Damn, that was good.
yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in. This has
What
been
if I told you I was wearing a mask?
at the end of the episode, we all just rip off our faces.
Yep. I'm Ryan Chapman. I called dibs.
What if he listens to this show and you've
Then
just,
you're welcome.
just doxed?
It's a tribute.
Yeah.
Yeah. NashvilleMovieDispatch.substack.com. For Brett and Brandon, I'm Stoney, and until next time, you stay classy, moviegoers.